I don't think it's possible to address climate change until we notice it. And one of the things we have to do is be outside more, start to feel our environment around us. We have to connect with it, and I think that's the way that we can make real change. My name is Yinglan Dan. I'm an architect and an artist. I've lived in the city for probably 20 years, and before that I actually grew up in the country, and so for me that shift was really quite stark. And ever since I've lived in the city, I've been very aware of being inside much more. One of the things I'm always trying to do is to connect with the outside. So all of my architectural work, whether it's interior or built form, is about finding ways of connecting some sorts of natural conditions with the interior. So the undeveloped areas in this neighbourhood, to give some context, our property was one of them a couple of years ago. When I moved into this property with my family, I discovered that there had been landscape drawings done some years before, and none of them were incorporating extra green work. It was all hard landscaping. It sort of screamed potential, this vast space, and as an architect and drawer, I'm looking at this surface thinking, what can I do with that? And for me, one of the key goals, I suppose, was to bring more green into the space and produce more communal spaces. Working with the Urban Forest Fund made this project possible for us. When we put to them our application and they came back with half of the funding, that was why I was able to go to our committee's annual general meeting and say to them, council has chipped in here. That's what brought people on board.
We know that connection to nature and people's access to nature is really important for health and well-being. So one of the really important aspects of greening within the City of Melbourne is incorporating biodiversity outcomes in green space, but also on private property. I'm David Callow and I'm the Director of Parks and City Greening here at the City of Melbourne. So there's over 200 laneways within the City of Melbourne that cover a combined total of 9 hectares of land. We know that 40% canopy cover is critical to ensuring the livability of the city in the future and bringing down those summer peak temperatures by 3 or 4 degrees. Our laneways are iconic, but they also present unique greening opportunities. Where space is limited, we can still provide critical greening outcomes through the Urban Forest Fund. So the Urban Forest Fund was developed by the City of Melbourne to accelerate greening on private property. This has delivered more than a 4-to-1 return on our investment. We get $4 of green cover for every dollar that we invest through this program. That's why we're offering small and large grants to make sure that we can achieve habitat on private property, but also very large projects up to $500,000 that enable large-scale greening on private property as well.
So I'm sitting here in the middle of Melbourne and we're surrounded by millions of tonnes of glass and steel and concrete, and during a heat wave that absorbs all that heat and then re-radiates that heat back out. And that can be a real problem when you're hitting 40-degree days. So it's really important that we actually tackle urban heat island by doing things like building urban farms across concrete car parks. I'm Brendan Condon, Director of Melbourne Sky Farm, and I work on urban farming and sustainability projects like this. The thing that inspired Sky Farm was a recognition that with climate change, we're going to have more and more difficulties growing food. So it's really important that we build food security and resilience in our cities. Cities have huge potential to grow food within city limits. We have all the ingredients to grow lots of food. We have huge amounts of organic resources like green waste and food waste. We have a huge amount of rainwater running off rooftops. And if you look through cities, we have huge amounts of space, like this car park, that can be transformed into urban farms. And Sky Farm is showing that we can actually help generate that food and we can turn our cities from linear into circular economies. Sky Farm has the potential to grow a couple of tonne of food per annum. So far we've donated over $40,000 worth of fresh produce to our food charity Oz Harvest in the last 12 months. And I think it just shows that ability to link up urban farmers and food charities and really try and tackle fundamentally food security issues. The City of Melbourne have been a fantastic contributor and supporter all the way through. This is now a science platform, so we're also monitoring urban heat island, the impact of a farm like this on the city microclimate, temperature and humidity and wind speed, wind direction. And City of Melbourne are helping us also measure the biodiversity on the rooftop. So they're measuring the insect life and the bird life. So all of these things are being measured and logged, and that's terrific knowledge to take forward.
In this particular project, it's not a project that could have happened without collaboration because I'm working with my neighbours and I'm working for my neighbours. And so it required a great sense of buy-in and trust from them. We've tried to make time to meet together in the site, to plant, to compost. We were really interested in bringing in a lot of native species, to bring in lots of bees, planted herb gardens, herb and vegetable gardens. There was a real enthusiasm from my neighbours to have edible foods as part of the garden. And now we continue to work together on things like working bees, and it's brought us much closer together as a community. I really do hope that other residents are inspired to follow and to pursue urban greening in the way that we have, to meet their neighbours, step outside and to feel that they have the agency to fight climate change.